I'm here at this healthcare clinic to uplift the work that is happening in Minnesota as an example of what true leadership looks like, which is to understand it is only right and fair that people have access to the health care they need, and that they have access to health care in an environment where they are treated with dignity and respect.
Today, in the sixth stop on her Fight for Reproductive Freedoms tour, as they're calling it, Vice President Harris became the first vice president or president to visit a clinic that provides abortion services. The vice president met with healthcare providers during a tour of Planned Parenthood in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Part of this healthcare crisis is the clinics like this that have had to shut down, and what that has meant to leave no options with any reasonable geographic area for so many women who need this essential care. And again, it runs the gamut of reproductive health care. So yes, it is abortion care. It is also, as I mentioned earlier, essential and critical reproductive health care like PAPs, like breast cancer screenings, things of that nature. So I'm here to highlight that of the many, I believe, potentially intended consequences of the Dobbs decision, one of them has been for healthcare providers such as this in the states that have banned or outlawed access to reproductive care, state clinics like this to shut down, and it's a travesty.
Most of the healthcare services Planned Parenthood provides are breast cancer screenings and preventive health care.
In this environment, these attacks against an individual's right to make decisions about their own body are outrageous and in many instances just plain old immoral. How dare these elected leaders believe they are in a better position to tell women what they need, to tell women what is in their best interest. We have to be a nation that trusts women.
3 years ago, our next guest, Democratic Representative Barbara Lee, told the House of Representatives what was coming if Roe versus Wade were overturned.
I'm compelled to speak out because of the real risks of the clock being turned back to those days before Roe versus Wade, to the days when I was a teenager and had a back alley abortion in Mexico. Adolescents' sexual and reproductive health were not discussed in a meaningful way, and because of that, I honestly wasn't sure how you got pregnant. When I just turned 16, I missed my period. I was confused, afraid, and unsure, not knowing if I was pregnant or not. I didn't know what to do. Now, in those days, mind you, this is in the mid-1960s, women and girls were told if you didn't have a period, you should take quinine pills, sit in a tub of water, or use a coat hanger if nothing else worked. My mother noticed I became introverted and very quiet, so she asked me what was going on with me. At that point, I told her everything. I told her that I maybe not could be pregnant. She responded with love. One of my mother's best friends in El Paso helped me access the abortion I could not get in California. When my mother told her what was going on, she told my mother to send me to her in El Paso because she knew of a good, competent, and compassionate doctor, yes, who had a back alley clinic in Mexico. Now, I was one of the lucky ones, Madam Chair. A lot of girls and women in my generation didn't make it. They died from unsafe abortions.
Joining us now is Democratic Congresswoman Barbara Lee of California. She is the co-chair of the Congressional Pro-Choice Caucus. Congresswoman Lee, thank you very much for joining us tonight for this important discussion. And I imagine even at that time, when you told your own personal story about this, there might have been people listening to that who thought, oh, we could never go back to that.
Lawrence, thank you very much for having me with you tonight. And there were women and men who were surprised that I talked about an abortion that I had. I never talked about it before, Lawrence. And I think the message and the lesson there in terms of my coming forward was that that's a personal, and it was a personal decision. It was nobody's business. It was about my body, and it was about my mother and I making the decision that I would have an abortion. And mind you, it was illegal in California, illegal in Texas, and it really was illegal in Mexico. And I knew that I could be, just like now, criminalized, but I also knew that I could die, because the highest rate of deaths were during that time were caused, especially as it relates to Black women, septic abortions. Thank God I survived. But here we are today in 2024, and I'm so happy and proud of the Vice President for shining a light on the devastating effects of the Dobbs decision, but also the importance of making sure that Donald Trump is not elected.
One of the points she made today in Minnesota is that Minnesota has become, and St. Paul has become, the new El Paso for some girls and women in neighboring states where they do not have any access to abortion whatsoever, and they have to make that trip. Talk about what it's like for what it was like for you at 16, and what it's like for women and girls who actually have to make an interstate trip, a real trip in order to handle something like this.
Well, it's terrifying. First of all, I went by myself. My mother was working, and I'll never forget, that was my very first airplane ride from, I believe it was Burbank into El Paso. In fact, I was one of the lucky ones, because you know what? My mother and my family could afford it. Now, so many women, especially women of color, low-income women, they don't have the money. They're low-wage workers in these red states and in these dozen plus states that have these restrictive laws. They don't have the resources for childcare. They can't take off of work. How are they going to travel to another state? And so, you know, it's a double whammy for them. And it's a really hard life if, in fact, they want to just exercise their own bodily autonomy. To have to be able to travel to a state with no money to find an abortion clinic. And I want to thank the abortion clinics in the states that are welcoming and helping these women, because so many of them are low income, so many of them are Black and brown women.